Hey guys, this is the second part of our project. In this video we are going to work on our login component. So we are going to build this model. This model is for login and register. So we can switch between them through this link. And here we are going to build these fields. So let's just try add a new user. Let's call it Jack and the email jack@gmail.com. Password. And let's make the confirm password different. So to check this notification, we are going to build this notification as well in this video. Now let's upload it and check our loading icon. This also we are going to build this backdrop with the loading. So let's get started. But first we need to move this inside our user folder. It shouldn't be here. Sorry for this mistake. And let's update the imports inside it. This should be in the same folder. And let's save. It should work now. Okay, now let's create our login component. We are going to use the dialog of Material UI. And we need to add the properties. Here we need to add the open variable in our global context. That's because if you can see here, we are opening the login from different places. For example, from this button, we can open it. And as well, we can open it from here, from this page. So we need the variable that controls this opening to be in a global context. Let's add it here. And let's call it open login. The default value is false. And let's go to our reducer to take an action on this variable to change its value, to toggle it between false and true. And let's call it open login. There is no need for the payload because we only have two situations. When it is open, it is true. When it is closed, it is false. So we just need to add here two cases. When it is open login, we will add true. And let's copy it and paste it for closing the login. Close login. Our open login variable will be false. Let's save it and go back to our login component and import our variable. Let's extract it from our state object. And let's add also the dispatch because we need to close it as well. Let's import the use value from our context provider. And here we are going to pass the value of the open login. And on close, when you click outside our login in the backdrop or anywhere outside that component, we will just handle close by dispatching an action to close the login. The type will be close login, and this action will take care of updating our variable to false. Let's add the dialog title. The dialog title will be state because we need to toggle it between login and register because we are going to use the same model for both of them. So let's create a state title and set title. And the default value will be the login. And let's add another state to toggle between them. This will control the title and will control the state of all the component or the model, if it will show the login or the register. And the default value is false, that means it is login. And now here let's pass our variable title or our state title. And this icon button is for closing this model by clicking on that icon. So we have two options: even we close outside our model, or we close on this, or we click on this icon. Let's position this icon to the right side, top 8 and right 8 pixel as well. And the color we are going to use the palette of Material UI. We're going to use the gray with 500 type. And on a click, we are going to use the same function handle close. Let's now add our fields. And here we are going to add the content. Let's add our function handle submit. This function will be triggered when we click on our button send or submit. Let's add it here. And for now we are just going to prevent the default behavior, so we are not going to refresh our page. Let's add our text for the user, the message for the user. This is the dialog content text. Now let's make it, please fill your information in the fields below. And let's add the dividers between the content and other sections like title and the actions. Let's start adding the fields. First field will be the name, and this name will be only shown if it is the register. So we will add the condition if it is register. It is text field. Autofocus is true. It is default true. Margin will be normal to give it decent margin. Variant is standard. We don't need the borders. ID name, label name, and type is text. And we need it to be full width. Input ref will be name ref. We will create this variable for reference, and input props. This will pass these props into HTML input. Min length we will make it 2. And it is required. Let's create the references. Const name ref equals use ref, and let's copy it 3 times for the email, password, and confirm password. Let's copy this text field and use it for the email. Email is shown in login and register, so there is no need for the condition. Let's change the ID to email, the label to email, and type email. We don't need this. Autofocus will be a condition, because if it is registered we need the autofocus on the name, and if it is the login we need the autofocus to be on the email. So we added this condition. If it is not registered, it will be shown only if it is the login state. For the password we need to add a component, because we are going to use it twice and it needs lots of configuration. Let's call it password field, and let's start building it. Let's paste the same field, text field. Let's import it, and we are going to receive the password reference, the ID, the default will be password, and the label, the default value will be password as well. So let's change the ID here to be the same property we received, and the label as well. Type, we need a state for that. Let's update first the reference. And let's work on the type. Let's create a new state. We will call it show password and set show password. The default value is false, means it is hidden. And here, depending on that condition, if it is show password, we will make it a text, a type. Otherwise, it will be password hidden. And here, let's add the min length to be 6. Input props. This will pass these props into the input component of Material UI, not the input element of HTML. In the adornment, this we will add an icon to switch between text and the password. This is the input adornment. We need it to be at the end. So we added position end, and we need icon button. Inside the icon button, we need an icon depending on the state. If show password, we will show the icon visibility off. Otherwise, we will show the visibility on or visibility. And on a click, we will handle a click. We need two functions here for on click and the other one on mouse down. Because we need the focus to stay in our text field, we don't need to move it to our button. So we will prevent the default action on mouse down. So let's create these two functions. The first one, handle on click. We will just simply toggle between false and true of our state show password. And the other function, handle mouse down, we will just prevent the default action. So the focus will stay on our password field. This is how it works. This is when we toggle it, the focus stay here. It is not switched to our button. So let's save it and import it in our login component. In case we are in the register state, we will add the password. Here we will add the confirm password. Let's add the password up outside the condition. This is for the first field, the password, and we need to pass only one prop. That is the reference, because the other props, the ID and the label, will take the default value. So there's no need to pass them. It will take here the ID, password and the label to be password. We'll just pass the password reference. In case of confirm password, we need to pass all of them. So the password ref will be the confirm password ref. And the ID will be confirm password. The label will be confirm password. Let's add our button to submit the form. Let's include it in dialog action. It is button with text submit, and type is submit to submit our form. Variant contained, and in the icon will be send. Let's save and check for now. Let's add our component in app component. Let's import it. Let's go to our nav bar and trigger the action to open this login model. In our button login, we'll just change the dispatcher to be the type open login. We don't need the payload because we already taken care of it in our reducer. So let's save and check. It's now working. When we close it as well, it is working. Even clicking on close icon or clicking outside the model. And now let's add a toggle between login and register. Let's include it in dialog action. If is register state, if it is true, we are going to include this message. Do you have an account? Sign in with that account. Otherwise, we will show the message. Don't you have an account? Create one now. And we will add the button to toggle between these two states. The text of the button will depend on the state of its register. So if it is true, we'll make it login, and if it is false, it is register. Let's add some styling here. We will justify the content to the left. And we will give it some padding from top and bottom and from left and right. And on a click, we will toggle between the state of is register so we will set is register to be the opposite of all the state. Let's save and check again. Let's try the link. The state is changing between login and register, but we have a little problem. The title is not changing, stay the same login. So let's use effect to change the title depending on is register state. This depends on our state is register. So if it is register, we will set the title to be register. Otherwise, we will set the title to be login. Let's save now. If we click here, the title has changed and it goes back again. So it is working now. Now let's add our login with Google button. We are going to create a component for that because we are going to write a code to communicate with Google. We are going to use one tab, the new feature of login with Google. So let's build this button. For now, we are just going to create the button. And in the next video, we are going to work on authentication with Google one tab login feature. So let's add a variant to be outlined. Start icon will be the icon of Google. Let's save it and import it in our login component. And let's add some styling here. We need to make it in the center. So we will justify the content to be center and the padding vertically to be 24 pixel. Let's check. Here's our button and everything is working. Now let's create our component notification. We'll create it inside our components folder and we'll call it notification because alert is already reserved by Material UI. We don't want to confuse it. We're going to use the snack bar to toggle it. And here in open we need as well a global variable, so we will add it in our context provider. Let's add it here. In this case, alert will be an object. Open is false. Severity is info. And message will be empty. This is the default values for our properties inside this object. So it is closed by default. And let's go to our reducer and add our action. It will be the same as our user. We need a payload because we have many fields to fill. It's not just false and true like the loading or like the login. So let's update it to update alert, and alert will be action.payload. Now let's import our object from the state and the dispatch because we needed to close this alert. Open is alert.open. The default value is false, that means it is closed. And the time or the duration is 6 seconds before it's closed. On close, we will add our function handle close. On close will be triggered when you click outside the snack bar or when the time is finished. And let's position this snack bar to be vertically top and horizontally to be in the center. Let's add our function handle close to receive the event and the reason. I'll check the reason. If it is a click away, I'll just retain. I'm not gonna close the snack bar or the notification, but it is your choice if you want to close it. In the other cases, if the time is finished or we clicked on close button, I'll dispatch to close our alert or notification by passing the type, update alert, and the payload to be the same, fields of alert, and the open will be false. This will close our alert. Let's add alert as our message inside this snack bar. This alert is a component from Material UI and our message inside it. Let's add the properties of this alert. On close, we will use the same function handle close, and severity will be the severity of our object alert. And let's add width to be 100%. Variant to be filled. And we will add a little shadow by elevation. Let's now import it in our app component on top of all the components. And now to test it, we are going to our login component and change our global state when we click on the submit button. So let's check the passwords. This is just for testing. Let's check if the password not equals the confirm password. If it is not, we will show our alert by dispatching our action update alert. And we will pass the action payload to be open true and severity to be error, and the message, let's make it passwords don't match. And let's check. Let's try to register. Let's add 2 different passwords and submit. And here is our notification. It's working. If you stay on the notification or snack bar, the timing is reset. It is not closing within 6 seconds unless you moved out the cursor outside the snack bar. And you can as well close it from this close icon. But if you click outside, it's not closed. If you go to the notification and comment this line of code and save it and go back, if you click outside, it is immediately disappeared. I am clicking now outside. I don't want that action because it is important notification and the user maybe by accidentally close it by clicking anywhere. Now let's work on our loading. Let's create a new component, call it loading. We are going to use the backdrop of Material UI. And inside it, we are going to use the infinite circular progress. Let's give it a color of white. And open, we need another global variable to control this state. So let's go to the context provider and add here loading, and the default value is false. And let's copy these 2 actions because it is the same. Let's update them to be start loading, and the other one to be end loading. Loading is true and loading is false. Let's save it and continue building our loading component. Now let's import that variable from our state. And here open is equals to loading. The default value is false, so it is closed. And let's add the z-index to give it more priority. We will use the default in the theme of the model, and we will add +1 to be on top of our model. Theme.z-index.model +1. Let's save it and add it to our app on top of the other components. And we need to change the state of this loading. We are going to use the same button, the submit, inside our login component. So let's add here our code. It's just for testing purpose. So let's dispatch type is start loading. We don't need a payload here because it is just false and true, and we took care of it in our reducer. Let's copy it and use it inside a timer. We will just simulate the loading. We will just wait 6 seconds before we make it disappear. And change here start to end loading. So first we will set it to be true. Then after 6 seconds we are going to set it to be false. Let's check. Let's see here the notification and the loading together. So we will make a different passwords. When we submit, we see both the notification and the loading. And if we make it correct, we will just see the loading for 6 seconds before it is disappeared. We need here to add padding to make this button aligned with the other elements. Let's go back to our login. And here in the dialog action of our submit button, we will add padding horizontally to be 19 pixel. Let's check it again. Now it is aligned correctly. In the next video we are going to work on Google one tab login feature. So when we click on our button, it is disabled and the prompt of Google appears, and when we click away it is disappeared and our button is enabled again, and when we click again it appears again, and we can log in with our Google account. So see you guys in the next video.